Call me late to the party, but I wanted to see actual gameplay before discussing what I did and didn't like about the Battlefield 5 reveal. While I thought the reveal trailer was visually impressive and the game from a presentation point of view looks incredible, it was pretty hard to get a feel for how it might play. It's also not uncommon, of course, for early trailers to pitch unrealistic expectations, so this trailer could be nothing more than marketing hype. Still, despite thinking it wasn't a great trailer, the possibility of a return to a less serious Battlefield has piqued my interest. So in this video, I wanted to go over what we know, the parallels to Bad Company, and whether or not 2018's Battlefield is going to be a game worth your time. I should also probably prefix what I'm about to say with how disappointed I've been with DICE and EA of late. I thoroughly enjoyed Battlefield 1, but the past few months here in Australia have been pretty rough for the Battlefield 1 community, so Battlefield 5 is really going to have to knock it out of the park for me to consider a purchase. So by now you've probably seen the reveal trailer, and whether you liked it or not, I'm guessing you noticed how different in tone it was compared to the past few games. Battlefield 1 in particular was a very bleak game. Sure, it had light-hearted moments in its campaign, but overall its depiction of war was dark and brutal. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the campaign's prologue, where you die repeatedly in a chaotic shitstorm of gunfire, screaming and explosions. Judging by Battlefield 5's first trailer, it looks like 2018's game will take a far less serious approach to storytelling, and in many ways this reminds me a lot of Bad Company and its sequel. Unsurprisingly, the first trailer had some members of the community a little concerned. It doesn't really match up with what players have come to expect from the franchise, both from a historical accuracy standpoint and from a gameplay point of view. Along with the shift in tone, it looks like DICE has taken a few more creative liberties than usual, something that is echoed by their statements about fun taking a priority over authenticity. I wouldn't exactly call the Battlefield franchise a military sim, but it has generally played it straight with its depiction of war. The reveal trailer seems to have made a conscious effort to make the game look more bombastic and over the top, both in its presentation and gameplay compared to previous years. Battlefield trailers have always been action-packed, but they've generally focused on a variety of vehicles, weapons and scenarios, showing you the scale of the sandbox and the multitude of ways that you can interact with it. This trailer though presents the action as one continuous sequence from the perspective of a single soldier. The other members of the squad are presented as stylized caricatures, with almost superhuman abilities, leaping from second-story windows and single-handedly taking out multiple enemies while still having time to crack jokes. This is very reminiscent of the Bad Company trailers, although it's a far cry from the typical everyman soldier depicted in the previous games, and maybe that's why it didn't land with some fans. It's also a very different approach to the more conventional gameplay trailer, which would come out 2 weeks later. The subsequent trailer, gameplay reveals and information presented at EA's Play event suggest that it probably won't play like a Rambo film. Battlefield 5 will undoubtedly be a visual spectacle with plenty of Michael Bay-esque moments. But my guess is that the gameplay will be much slower than the marketing suggests. And this is a good thing. Team coordination, strategy, and large 64-player battles have always been the cornerstone of the Battlefield experience. And based on what we've seen from the gameplay reveal, it certainly looks much more like the Battlefield that we're used to. If anything, it looks like this game is leaning further into the key pillars of Battlefield's design, rather than trying to replicate what other successful titles are doing. Okay, yeah, so Battlefield 5 will have a Royale mode, and it has lifted some features from other games, but I'll get to that shortly. Design choices, such as limited resources, being able to create defensive structures, and not being able to play outside of a squad, all suggest that matches might move more slowly than in previous titles. It also means that Battlefield 5 is likely to be highly strategic, maybe even more so than the previous games, and I think this is a smart move. Battlefield has always been at its best when all of its team-based mechanics come together. For this reason, I think building on this further and providing players with more options for playing together makes a great deal of sense. There are a lot of new mechanics which will impact how Battlefield 5 is played. I'm not going to cover all of them because this could easily be an hour-long video, but I did want to discuss some of the larger changes. The reworking of squads and classes, for example, sounds like it will have a big impact on how the game is played. Being able to rank up and customize classes and even subclasses could give the game a huge amount of depth and replayability. It will also allow players to create unique loadouts for specific scenarios, and it addresses one of my biggest complaints with Battlefield 1, the lack of a progression system. This could potentially create balance issues if DICE don't stay on top of how players use this feature, but at the very least it should make things a little bit more interesting. Now, there are a number of new features which seem to have been lifted from other popular team-based shooters. The new predictable recoil system is a prime example, but a welcome one which again sounds like it will add depth to the gameplay, particularly for people who sink a lot of time into the game. Black Ops 4 also has this system, along with non-regenerating health and a stronger focus on teamwork. But many of these choices seem like a better fit with Battlefield's formula. It's interesting that both games have gone down a similar path, almost like they were sharing notes during the early stages of each project. The decision to reduce starting ammunition and the lack of auto-healing to force players to group up and support each other is a bold choice. Lone wolfing will be almost impossible, or at least less fun than sticking with your squad. This could make the game feel less accessible to casual or new players, although I think that team-based games like Overwatch and Siege have proven that this approach can work in a large AAA title. Another design choice that promotes working together is that every squad member can now revive, making it everyone's responsibility to look after fallen squad members. Having a medic will still be advantageous as they can revive faster, restore health to 100% and revive non-squad members, but it certainly provides a good reason to stay close to your unit. It also means that if you have a hopeless medic, that other players can pick up the slack. The new spawning system is also heavily squad focused. Being able to get a better view on a spawn location by spectating your unit will prevent a lot of frustrating deaths. It should also be a bit more tactical too, because you can continue to give callouts to your team while you wait to spawn back in. But the most exciting new feature of squads, if you ask me, is that the squad leader will be able to call in reinforcements. These very cleverly labelled squad reinforcements kind of sound a little bit like the commander mode from previous Battlefield games. Reinforcements need to be earned by accumulating points, which is a similar system to Battlefront's battle points, only your squad contribute to a joint tally instead of individual points. Reinforcements will range from lethal items like a V1 flying rocket, which you can see in the trailer, or a tank with side-mounted flamethrowers. There'll also be non-lethal options too, such as smoke screens and supply drops. As someone who's a big fan of Call of Duty's score streaks, I really like this idea, particularly because it's earned as a team rather than individually. Of course, all of these new mechanics will only be successful if there's a solid communication system in place, and this isn't something that DICE has always done a great job at in the past. They have said that the level of communication in Battlefield 5 will be better than in previous titles, but I'm still skeptical. Communication needs to go well beyond in-game chat alone. Anyone who's used to playing on PlayStation will know that chatting with strangers doesn't always happen. So there needs to be another mechanism for notifying team members when you need help or if you can provide assistance. One of the main focuses in the marketing so far has been on destruction. This is yet another similarity with Bad Company, although it looks like it will be far more dynamic and realistic than ever before. Whether this means it plays a more meaningful role in the gameplay remains to be seen, but it will certainly make it a more visceral experience if nothing else. Okay, so what about the elephant in the room? Ah yes, Battle Royale, the mode which every shooter needs apparently. I get why they're doing it, it's the hot thing right now, and it's kind of really just an extension of what Battlefield has been doing anyway. I think what's smart about their approach though is that they haven't made a big deal about this mode. Battlefield knows what type of game it is, and while its take on Battle Royale might be fun, making it one of the main attractions is too big a gamble. Royale is definitely the hottest thing right now, but it may not be in 12 to 18 months' time. If I had to guess though, I think that the lack of info at this stage probably has more to do with how ready it is, rather than how much focus they want to put on it. Much like Black Ops 4's Blackout, I don't think that Battlefield's Royale mode was planned from the start. We'll certainly see a bigger marketing push prior to launch, but not making it a main focus gives them the option to change positioning should the market change. The only thing that really stands out to me that's a bit strange from everything that we've seen so far is the emphasis on jumping out of windows. Did I miss something? Is this a feature long requested by the community that hasn't been technically possible until now? And will it play a big role in deciding the outcome of matches? I mean, it's cool, but is it really that big a deal?
You will be able to dive and smash through windows to surprise your enemies.
Anyway, it's hardly a deal breaker, I just thought I'd point it out. My biggest concern is that from a presentation point of view, it looks a lot like Battlefield 1, which is why I think the first trailer made a point of being so different. It's obvious that the main difference between Battlefield 5 and any of the previous games will be gameplay. It hasn't radically changed the formula, but there are significant changes across the board that could make it play very differently. I personally think this is exciting, and I don't mind if DICE want to bend the truth a little bit more than usual either. I think that the negative backlash that some fans have voiced against things like female soldiers is kind of ridiculous. I can understand that some people might be disappointed that the game looks less accurate from a historical accuracy point of view. But as I mentioned earlier, Battlefield has never tried to be super realistic or historically accurate. And to the people who insist that inaccuracies break immersion, there's a whole host of things less accurate than female soldiers that would need to be changed first. Silencers, for example, don't silence weapons, so they'd need to go. Tanks should probably require 4 to 5 people to operate them. Oh, and while we're at it, how about we replace healing with more realistic injuries and permadeaths? Or what if explosions that didn't kill you left you completely deaf and disoriented for the rest of the match? I could go on, but you get my point. If a realistic depiction of war is what you're after, then there are plenty of other games striving for accuracy, such as armor, if that's really important to you. So in summary, do I think Battlefield 5 will be good? Maybe. On paper it all sounds very impressive, and from what we've seen it looks like the game is coming together nicely. However, and this is a big however, with EA calling the shots, who knows what kind of experience we're in for. My faith in EA's products over the past 12 months has taken a nosedive, and as much as I like everything I've seen, I'm unsure if I can be persuaded to spend money on another EA product. The lack of loot crates or a premium season pass sounds great, but if Battlefront 2 is anything to go by, they still have a long way to go before they get this model right. Hopefully the lessons EA have said they've learnt have been, but I'll be keeping a close eye on things from now until the game launches. But let me know what you think. Does Battlefield 5 look dope as hell? Or has the damage been done and there's nothing they can do to persuade you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, a like is always appreciated. If you'd like to stay up to date with all my videos, you can always subscribe, but otherwise, thanks for watching.